In the misty haze of a Seattle truck stop, where the roar of engines drowned out the whispers of doubt, an 8-year-old girl named Daniela Martinez spotted something that would forever alter the course of 43 hardened bikers' lives, and her own. The March wind whipped through the parking lot of Rick's truck stop on the outskirts of Seattle, carrying the sharp tang of diesel fuel and the promise of impending rain. 43 members of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club had converged there, their gleaming Harleys lined up like sentinels, ready for their monthly charity ride to the local veterans hospital. Leather vests adorned with skull patches and 1% emblems fluttered in the breeze, and the air hummed with deep laughter, the clink of tools, and the occasional rev of an engine being tested. These men were legends in their own right, tattooed giants with scars from bar fights, road wars, and lives lived on the edge. To most, they were intimidating, a force to be avoided. But on this day, they were just brothers preparing to do good. Inside her grandmother's battered Honda Civic, Daniela pressed her small nose against the fogged-up window, her wide brown eyes drinking in the scene. At 8 years old, she was a bundle of curiosity and quiet intensity, her dark hair tied in pigtails that bounced with every excited shift. Her second-grade teacher often noted her keen observation skills on report cards, praising how she noticed details others missed, like the way a classmate's smile didn't reach their eyes when they were sad. Daniela lived with her abuela, Rosa Martinez, a 72-year-old widow whose hands were gnarled from years of hard work and arthritis. 2 years earlier, Daniela's parents had been taken in a tragic car crash caused by a drunk driver, leaving Rosa to raise the girl alone on a meager pension and social security checks. "Stay in the car, mija," Rosa warned in her soft, accented English, her voice laced with the weariness of someone who'd seen too much hardship. "Those men, they're not our world. We don't bother them." Rosa hobbled out to pump gas, wincing with each squeeze of the handle, her floral scarf whipping in the wind. Daniela nodded obediently, but her gaze remained glued to the bikers. She counted them silently. 1, 2, 3, up to 43, memorizing their movements. The way one adjusted his bandana, another polished a chrome fender with a rag that smelled faintly of oil. The engines began to rumble to life, a symphony of thunder that vibrated through the car's thin frame, making Daniela's heart race with a mix of fear and awe. But then, something caught her eye, a shadow moving furtively along the row of bikes. A man in a dark hooded jacket slunk between the motorcycles, his posture hunched and suspicious. He glanced around, nervously, his face partially obscured, but Daniela could see the glint of a tool in his hand, a pair of wire cutters, sharp and menacing under the grey sky. He crouched beside the first bike, reaching under the front wheel assembly. Daniela's mind flashed back to a story her abuela's friend, Miguel, had shared just weeks ago over dinner. Miguel had described how his cousin's truck had been sabotaged, brake lines severed in an act of revenge, leading to a horrific crash that nearly claimed his life. The details had stuck with Daniela, the screech of tires, the smell of burning rubber, the terror of losing control. Now, watching this stranger, her stomach twisted in knots. He was cutting brake lines. 1 bike, 2, 3, 4, moving swiftly, methodically, while the bikers chatted obliviously, slapping backs and sharing jokes. Her small hands clenched into fists, nails digging into her palms. These were Hell's Angels, men her abuela had always said to steer clear of, with their booming voices and imposing builds. But if they rode off with tampered brakes, crashes, blood, death, the images flooded her mind. Twisted metal, sirens wailing, families shattered like hers had been. Daniela's breath came in shallow gasps, the car's interior suddenly feeling too confined, too safe, while danger lurked outside. Without another thought, she flung open the door, her scuffed pink sneakers hitting the wet pavement with determined slaps. "Wait! Stop! Don't start your bikes!" Her voice, high-pitched and urgent, pierced the din like a siren. The effect was electric. Engines sputtered to silence. Conversations froze. 43 pairs of eyes, steely, surprised, locked onto this tiny girl charging toward them, her jacket unzipping in the wind, tears welling in her eyes from the sheer adrenaline. Rosa's head jerked up from the gas pump, her face paling to the color of ash. "Daniela, get back here now!" But the girl was already among the bikers, pointing a trembling finger at the hooded man who had paused mid-crouch, his face now exposed. A young man in his late 20s, with hollow cheeks and eyes wide with panic. "That man!" Daniela gasped, her voice cracking as she fought back sobs. "He was under your bikes with cutters. I saw him slicing something, I think the brake lines. My abuela's friend said that makes you crash and die. He did 4 already. Please, don't ride them." The bikers exchanged glances, a ripple of tension spreading like wildfire. The nearest one, a towering figure named Gunnar, 6'4", with a salt and pepper beard braided into ropes and arms etched with faded military tattoos, knelt down, his gravelly voice steady but edged with concern. He'd survived 2 tours in Iraq, seen comrades fall, and thought he'd witnessed every kind of chaos. But this, a child risking everything to warn them, it hit him like a gut punch. "Which ones, kid?" Gunnar asked, his eyes scanning the line of bikes. Daniela pointed shakily. "That one, and those 3 there." He started at the front. The hooded man bolted then, sprinting toward a rusted sedan, idling at the lot's edge. 2 bikers, Razor, wiry and quick, and Snake, with a snake tattoo coiling up his neck, took off in pursuit, their boots thundering against the asphalt. Gunnar dropped to one knee beside the first indicated bike, his calloused fingers probing the undercarriage. What he found chilled him. A clean sever in the brake line, hydraulic fluid pooling darkly on the ground, glistening like blood. "Check 'em all," he barked, his command slicing through the air. Chaos erupted, organized, purposeful, as bikers inspected every machine. "This one's cut. Mine too. Damn near through. Jesus, 8 in total." Rosa reached Daniela, pulling her close, her frail body trembling. "I'm so sorry," she stammered to Gunnar, her accent thickening with stress. "She's just a child, she didn't mean to." Gunnar rose, his massive frame casting a shadow, but his expression softened, revealing a depth few ever saw. "Ma'am, your granddaughter just saved lives. 8 of my brothers could have been roadkill on the interstate." Daniela's tears flowed freely now, mixing with the first drops of rain. "I was scared," she whispered, "but I couldn't let them get hurt." If this moment of raw courage from a little girl is touching your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Road Motorcycle Diaries for more inspiring stories that restore your faith in humanity. Cole, the club's vice president, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s with a jagged scar along his jaw, pulled out his phone. "Cops en route. Got the plate on that sedan. Our guys are tailing him." He knelt to Daniela's level, his voice warm. "You're a hero, kid. Name's Cole. What's yours?" "Daniela Martinez," she sniffled, wiping her eyes. "I didn't want trouble. I just remembered the story about the brakes." Rosa clutched her tighter, whispering in Spanish, "You did good, mija, but we should go." Gunnar shook his head. "Not yet. This sabotage? It's targeted. Rival gang, maybe. And that guy saw the kid. You 2 could be in danger." The words hung heavy as sirens wailed in the distance. Rosa's world spun, her simple life of scraping by, doctor visits and bedtime stories for Daniela, now entangled with outlaws and threats. As police lights flashed, pulling into the lot, a chilling text buzzed on Rosa's phone from an unknown number. "You should have stayed quiet." Her hands shook as she showed Cole, his jaw tightened. "This ain't over." As the first threatening text glowed on Rosa's phone screen, "You should have stayed quiet." The rumble of arriving motorcycles suddenly felt less like danger and more like the promise of safety neither she nor Daniela had ever known. The rain had started in earnest now, drumming hard on the roof of Rick's truck stop as red and blue police lights painted the wet asphalt in frantic colors. Detectives took statements, photographed the severed brake lines, and towed the suspect's sedan after Razor and Snake had forced it to pull over a mile down the road. The young saboteur, barely 27 and shaking in handcuffs, admitted he'd been paid by someone from a rival club to send a message, but he swore he didn't know a kid had seen him. Rosa clutched Daniela close under a shared umbrella, the girl's small body still trembling from the rush of adrenaline. Gunnar stood nearby, rain dripping from his braided beard, watching the scene with narrowed eyes. When Detective Sarah Park approached Rosa to confirm contact details, he stepped forward. "Ma'am, with respect, these two need protection tonight. That text came in 5 minutes ago. Whoever's behind this already has her number." The detective, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, glanced at the message and nodded grimly. "We can offer a patrol drive-by, but we're stretched thin. If the Hells Angels are willing to help until we make an arrest." She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone understood. Cole placed a gentle hand on Rosa's shoulder. "We've got a safe place. Clean, quiet, fenced yard. No one will find you there. Just for a few days, until we sort this out." Rosa looked down at Daniela, whose pink sneakers were soaked, and whose eyes were wide with exhaustion and leftover fear. The idea of returning to their cramped one-bedroom apartment, where the hallway light flickered and the locks felt flimsy, made her stomach drop. We don't have anything with us," she whispered. "Clothes? Daniela's school things?" Gunnar gave a small smile that softened his scarred face. "We'll handle that too." An hour later, after a quick stop at their apartment escorted by 2 bikers, Rosa and Daniela arrived at a modest 3-bedroom house in North Seattle. The porch light was already on, warm and golden against the rain. Dutch, a quiet giant with a grey ponytail and kind hazel eyes, stood guard with a thermos of coffee. "Welcome home for now, ladies," he said softly, holding the door open. Inside, it smelled faintly of pine cleaner and leather. The living room had a worn but comfortable couch, a flat-screen TV, and, most astonishing to Daniela, a backyard visible through sliding glass doors, complete with a rusted basketball hoop. Daniela's eyes lit up for the first time that day. "Abuela, look, a yard!" She pressed her face to the glass, fogging it with her breath. Rosa felt tears prick her own eyes. Their old apartment had a single window overlooking a parking lot. This felt like a dream she was afraid to believe in. That night, Daniela fell asleep clutching a new stuffed bear one of the bikers' old ladies had dropped off, her pigtails spread across a pillow in her very own room. Rosa lay awake in the room next door, listening to the soft creak of Dutch, walking the perimeter outside, and the occasional low rumble of a motorcycle doing a slow pass on the street. For the first time in years, the sounds of the night didn't make her anxious. They made her feel guarded. The next morning brought sunlight and the smell of fresh coffee and bacon. Betty, the waitress from Murphy's Diner, arrived with 2 huge bags of groceries and a grin. "Gunnar says you're family now." Family eats proper. She unpacked eggs, fresh fruit, milk, cereal, and even a box of Daniela's favorite strawberry Pop-Tarts. Rosa tried to protest, pride flaring hot in her chest. "We cannot accept all this." Betty waved her off. "Honey, you raised a little girl brave enough to save 43 hard-headed bikers. The least we can do is feed you." Over the following days, the safe house transformed into something Rosa never expected. A home filled with unexpected visitors who became familiar faces. Cole stopped by every afternoon with updates. Marcus Vance, the enforcer from the rival East Side Devils, had been identified as the one who ordered the sabotage. The prospect who cut the lines was talking, trying to cut a deal. But Vance was still out there, and he was angry. One evening, as Daniela practiced dribbling the basketball Dutch had cleaned up for her, Rosa sat on the porch steps with Gunnar. The big man nursed a mug of black coffee, staring out at the quiet street. "You know," he said quietly, "most people cross the street when they see us coming. They see the patches, the ink, the bikes, and they assume the worst." Rosa nodded slowly, shame warming her cheeks. She had been one of those people. Gunnar continued, "But that little girl of yours, she didn't see monsters. She saw people who might get hurt, and she ran straight at us to warn us. That kind of heart, it reminds us why we started riding together in the first place. Brotherhood, loyalty, protecting what's right." Rosa's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm so tired of being afraid. Afraid of bills, afraid of the landlord, afraid something will happen to her when I'm gone. And now this." Gunnar turned to look at her fully. "You're not alone anymore, Rosa. That debt we owe Daniela, it extends to you. We take care of our own." That night, another text came. "We know where you are." Rosa's heart stopped. She showed Cole immediately. His face hardened. "They're bluffing, trying to scare you out of hiding, but we're ending this." Within hours, the club had set up discreet surveillance. When a suspicious car circled the block twice, 2 bikers followed it until it sped off. The driver, a low-level devil's hanger-on, was persuaded to reveal Vance's plan, intimidate the witness into silence before she could testify. Cole sat Rosa down the next day. "We can keep you safe here forever if needed, but there's a better way. Go public. Tell your story. Once the world knows what Daniela did and why someone's threatening an 8-year-old hero and her grandmother, Vance won't dare touch you. Public witnesses are protected by spotlight." Rosa's hands shook. "On television, I barely speak English well." Cole smiled gently. "You speak courage just fine." 3 days later, Rosa and Daniela sat under bright studio lights at Cairo 7 News. Daniela wore a new dress one of the old ladies had bought her, her pigtails neat and shiny. Reporter Amanda Chin asked soft but direct questions. When she turned to Daniela, "Were you scared to run up to all those big bikers?" The girl looked straight into the camera and said, "Yes. But Abuela always says, if you see something wrong, you have to speak up even if your voice shakes. I didn't want them to crash like my mommy and daddy did." The segment aired that night. Social media exploded. Brave little Daniela trended locally. Donations poured into a GoFundMe the station set up. Medical bills, rent, school supplies, and the threats kept coming, each one documented by police. With every message, the case against Vance grew stronger. Finally, the knock on the safe house door came not from danger, but from Detective Park. "Marcus Vance is in custody. Multiple counts, conspiracy, attempted murder, witness intimidation. He's not getting out anytime soon." Rosa sank onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. Relief, yes, but also a quiet grief. The threat was gone. That meant going back to the leaking roof, the overdue bills, the exhaustion of surviving day to day. Daniela bounced the basketball slowly, watching her abuela with worried eyes. "Are we leaving our house with the yard?" she asked in a small voice. Rosa couldn't answer. Not yet. If this story of unexpected family and unbreakable courage is moving you, hit that subscribe button on Road Motorcycle Diaries right now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss how this ends. Like this video and drop a comment. Would you have opened your home to strangers who needed help? Echoing back to that fateful misty morning at the truck stop, where a little girl's voice cut through the roar of engines like a beacon of hope, Rosa Martinez now realized that sometimes the most fearsome guardians come wrapped in leather and thunder. With Marcus Vance behind bars facing 15 to 20 years, the immediate shadows of danger lifted from Rosa and Daniela's lives like the Seattle fog burning off under a rare sun. But as Detective Park's words sank in, "You're safe now," Rosa felt a different kind of weight settle in her chest. Safety meant returning to the old life, the one-bedroom apartment with walls so thin you could hear the neighbors' arguments, the landlord's eviction notices piling up like unpaid bills, and the constant ache of stretching every dollar until it snapped. Daniela, sensing her abuela's quiet turmoil, hugged her tightly. "Abuela, can we keep the yard and the room with my bear?" Her innocent question hung in the air, pulling at Rosa's heartstrings. Gunnar and Cole arrived that afternoon, their motorcycles rumbling to a stop outside the safe house. Dutch was there too, teaching Daniela one last chess move on the porch, his deep laugh mingling with her giggles. "Checkmate again, kiddo. You're a natural." Daniela beamed, her pigtails swinging as she high-fived him. Rosa watched from the doorway, marveling at how these men, once symbols of everything she feared, had become pillars in their fragile world. "We heard the news," Gunnar said, his gravelly voice steady as he stepped inside. "Vance is done. You're free to go." Rosa nodded, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Yes, back to normal. But the word normal tasted bitter. Normal meant skipping meals so Daniela could eat, lying awake, calculating how to pay for her school supplies, and the bone-deep fatigue of a 72-year-old woman raising a child alone. Cole, ever perceptive, caught the flicker of despair. "Doesn't have to be that way, Rosa. The club, we've talked, voted actually." Gunnar leaned against the kitchen counter, his massive arms crossed, but his expression open, vulnerable in a way that surprised her. That little girl saved 8 lives that day. 8 brothers who'd be gone if she hadn't spoken up. In our world, that's a debt that doesn't just vanish. We protect our own, and you two, your family now. Rosa's breath caught. "What are you saying?" Cole pulled out a set of keys, the same ones to the safe house, and placed them in her hand. "This place is yours, no rent, ever, and we've got work for you. Coordinating our outreach, toy drives for kids at Christmas, food banks for vets, charity rides. You're good with people, Rosa, we've seen it. Modest salary, benefits, enough to breathe easy." Tears welled in Rosa's eyes, spilling over as she clutched the keys. Pride warred with relief, but for once, she let relief win. "Why? We were nobody. Just a grandmother and her Mia at a gas pump." Gunnar shook his head, emotion roughening his voice. "Nobody. You raised a kid with the guts to charge at 43 Hells Angels because she saw wrong and wouldn't stand for it. That's everything. Courage like that, it reminds us of what matters, not the patches or the rides, the bond, the loyalty, the good we can do." Daniela burst in then, cheeks flushed from the game. "Abuela, did you hear? Dutch says I can learn to ride a bike, a real one, when I'm bigger." Rosa laughed through her tears, pulling the girl close. "Yes, mija. And guess what? We're staying. This is our home now." Daniela's squeal of joy echoed through the house, a sound of pure, unfiltered happiness that filled every corner. 6 months blurred into a tapestry of new beginnings. Rosa threw herself into the club's community work with a passion she hadn't felt in years. She organized the largest toy drive Seattle had seen, coordinating with local shelters and watching as bikers, tattooed arms laden with stuffed animals and bikes, delivered gifts to wide-eyed children. Her arthritis still ached on rainy days, but now there were hands to help. Betty dropping off homemade soups, Dutch fixing the leaky faucet, Cole handling the paperwork for her medical bills, negotiating them down to manageable payments. Daniela flourished like a flower finally given sunlight. Her grades soared, her confidence bloomed. No more shoes pinching her toes or nights wondering if there'd be breakfast. She made friends at school, proudly telling them about her uncles with the cool motorcycles who taught her chess and how engines worked. One Sunday, Gunnar arrived with groceries as usual, staying for dinner. Rosa's famous tamales, a recipe passed down from her own abuela. The table was alive with stories. Gunnar recounting war tales softened for young ears, Cole sharing how the club had pulled him from his own dark times, Daniela chiming in with school adventures. As the months turned to a year, the Seattle Hells Angels' reputation evolved, still fierce, still unyielding to those who crossed them, but now known as the crew that shielded a brave little girl and her grandmother. Newspapers ran follow-ups on brave little Daniela, highlighting the club's charity efforts. Rosa found herself speaking at community events, her accented English strong and clear. I taught my granddaughter to speak truth, even when afraid. And these men, the ones society judges by their leather, they showed me family isn't blood, it's who stands with you in the storm. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Rosa sat on the porch with Cole. Daniela played in the yard, her laughter mingling with the distant hum of traffic. It's been a year since that truck stop, Rosa mused, her voice soft with reflection. Cole nodded, his scarred hand brushing hers, a touch that had become familiar, comforting. Feels like a lifetime, she turned to him, eyes shining. I was drowning then, alone, scared, but Daniela, her small voice stopped everything. And you all listened. Cole squeezed her hand. We didn't just listen. We learned. That courage, it's contagious. Reminds us not to judge by appearances, ours or anyone else's. Sometimes angels wear leather, not wings. Rosa smiled, leaning into his shoulder, feeling a peace she'd thought lost forever. That night, tucking Daniela into bed in her room filled with drawings of motorcycles and stars, Rosa whispered, Are you happy, Mija? Daniela yawned, clutching her bear. The happiest, Abuela. I have you and Cole and Gunnar and a whole family. And I saved people. That's cool, right? Very cool, Rosa agreed, kissing her forehead. You showed the world that one voice, no matter how small, can change everything. And kindness? It comes from the unlikeliest places. Outside, the faint rumble of a motorcycle passed, a sound that once meant fear but now whispered home, protection, belonging. Rosa closed her eyes, grateful for the cycle that had brought them full circle. From a misty parking lot where a girl's warning saved strangers to a life where those strangers became saviors in return. In the end, it wasn't about bikers or outlaws. It was about humanity's quiet miracles, the bonds forged in courage and compassion, proving that faith in people could indeed be restored. If this heartwarming tale of courage, unexpected family and redemption inspired you, give it a like. Subscribe to Road Motorcycle Diaries for more stories that celebrate the best in humanity, and drop a comment below. Would you have spoken up like Daniela did? Your thoughts mean the world.